Hey there.
Hey!
I'm David Gordon from TheaterMania. It is Tuesday, July 28th. I'm here with the legendary Marsha Mason. Uh, do you not like the word legendary?
No, that's what I was thinking. I thought, wow, legendary, really? So,
Well, you are.
oh, well, that's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So the first thing right off the bat I want to talk about is a project you're working on for Bucks County Playhouse
Oh, yeah.
called Dear Liar, which you recorded.
Dear Liar. Yeah. And what it is it's a two-character play that's done in theaters, but it is the letters between George Bernard Shaw and Mrs. Patrick Campbell. Mrs.
Oh,
Patrick
cool.
Campbell was a famous English actress who reigned on the London stage. She was also a manager, and in terms of managing in a theater and a whole company. And she was a very interesting character, and she played America quite often with Shaw plays as well as, and then of course she was most famous for the original Eliza Doolittle in the
Pygmalion.
yeah, and but she was a very interesting character, and they had a very unique and somewhat mysterious relationship all through letters. They never had any intimate contact, but they loved each other in a major way, and so we did it with Brian Cox from Succession, and so it's to benefit Bucks County Playhouse, it's stream on September 1st.
How did you record? Was this your first time recording theater on the computer?
I've done shorter plays than this. This was a full-length 2-hour thing. But this is the first time we did a really serious full-on. I saw the Apple Play streamed. I thought that was really wonderful. And we did it on StreamYard so that the Mark Brokaw, the director, could have some bigger creative scale to deal with in terms of editing and everything.
Yeah, that's what we're using now, and I feel like it's a much more conducive platform than Zoom.
I know it is, and you don't have some of the glitches that you can have with Zoom.
Yeah.
So I'm learning.
So we all are. I feel like it's a whole new world that we're living through.
It is. It really is.
Is it weird for you to record theater in this capacity, or does it just feel like you're doing a TV thing or a film thing?
No, actually, this was really interesting. I mean, Brian and I feel, created a real chemistry, and they felt that too. I don't know whether it will read for the audience. I'm sincerely hoping so. So that part was very exciting. And we were reading it. We were not, it wasn't memorized because it wasn't too lengthy. But now the way you can sort of set up your material close, at least, to the camera and everything, I think you get a much more personal or intimate sort of performance.
Yeah. Do you see yourself, because you direct also?
Yes.
Can you see yourself directing something with this capacity, or is that not?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you would apply the same principles, of course, when you're working on the material, but then you have at least some choices on StreamYard from an editorial point of view. So it's like film. And so I feel comfortable with that.
When you were first starting out, did you always want to be an actor, or did you also want to be a director and you sort of toggled both?
No, I never thought about directing. I just wanted to be an actor. But then, like in the 80s, my friend Robin Goodman, who of course now is one of the producers at Bucks County, she gave me the opportunity at Second Stage because she felt that I had a good eye, having watched me in rehearsals and performances and stuff, and our conversations, because we're also close personal friends. So she and Carol Rothman gave me a shot at it, and it was successful. with Betty Buckley and Mary Kay Place, and it was called Juno's Swans. It was written by a friend of mine, E. Catherine Kerr, who's passed on. But it was a great experience. And then I went on to direct some television afternoon, those afternoon school. Yeah. And then I didn't do it for a long time. And then about 7-8 years ago, I started directing in the theater again.
I know you work a lot at Bucks County, which I'm sure is a theater that's close to your heart.
Yes, and also at Arizona Rep and a couple of other places now.
How are theaters like Arizona Rep and Bucks County like coping with everything that's going on in the world? They must be hurting like crazy.
Everybody is. I mean, all the theaters are just having a really tough time, especially the not-for-profits.
Yeah.
Because they rely on the subscription. The subscription is their lifeblood, if you will,
Right.
and it's tough. So they've had to furlough people, like at the Old Globe and all the places I've worked, Arena. I did a wonderful sort of marketplace for the Arena where I offered to coach actors. But I mean, and with no actor working, how can they pay for?
I know. It's the worst kind of catch-22.
Oh God, it's awful. It's just awful.
Were you working on anything that got shut down?
I was supposed to go out on March 25th, I think it was. I was supposed to fly to LA to shoot an episode on Grace and Frankie for Netflix.
Yeah.
And of course, it got shut down. And so we've been, hoping eventually to be able to do it. We did do a table read at one point with the whole cast, which was fun.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Everybody. Yeah. And they all looked wonderful and sounded great and everything. So one is hopeful that we'll be able to actually shoot it soon.
I know. I was telling you before, my wife and I did a complete rewatch of Frasier, which you were on.
Right.
For what was it's 2 seasons, a season and a half? Do you remember I feel like it was a season and change.
I might have been. I think so. It was about 6 episodes. That's what I sort of remember. Yeah.
It felt like you were in so many more than 6 or 7 episodes, though, because your character Sherry made such an impression.
Well, she was only supposed to be a one-off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a one-off, sort of like a guest cameo kind of thing. And because they didn't know for sure if it, what to do. And John Mahoney and I had worked together before. So we had wonderful chemistry, and they loved it and I loved it. So they wound up writing 5 more, whatever it was, episodes.
Yeah. I don't know. There are some episodes. I don't know how you guys kept it together enough to shoot one clean take, because there are so many things in there that are just still so hysterical.
It's fascinating, too, because they were a very successful show by the time I came on.
Yeah.
And David Hyde Pierce told me something really interesting. He said, it's so wonderful to have these guest artists come on, which they had a lot of them, well-known people come on and do a performance. And he said, but the problem sometimes can be is how does that guest performer fit into the flow of what they've already have a well-oiled machine.
Right.
And so it really worked out wonderfully that I was able to just kind of slip in and feel part of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked out really well.
Do you have a favorite memory or something from your time on the set?
Well, I think playing the banjo to the original dog was one of my favorites. There were any number of them. There was a coffee shop scene with David and Kelsey that I had a wonderful time. And I remember it was just so much fun. And one of the best things was I had this idea for the character in terms of costume, but you never know what because you're you're just coming in for one show.
Right.
And when I talked to the costume designer, we had the same idea of this ruffled blouse and these boots and everything.
How often does that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you sort of know it's serendipitous, but also meant to be, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was cool.
As a performer, is there a similar sort of like acting tool book that you apply when you're doing a stage show versus when you're doing a screen thing?
No, I pretty much approach the work exactly the same, no matter what the medium. I mean, obviously, you make adjustments based on where the camera is or what the shot is. But as far as the approach to it, and in terms of listening and working off of the other actor, I mean, sometimes in television, you'll have to do a take without the person being there.
Right.
So there's that. But for the most part, I approach it pretty much the same way. I'm somewhat mystified by people who teach a different technique. But I think because I trained as a theater actor, but my experience early on included film. So I kind of learned right away. And I think part of the reason was that the two directors that I had for Cinderella Liberty and for Bloom in Love were Paul Mazursky for Bloom and Mark Rydell for Cinderella Liberty. And they were actors also. So they knew how to talk to me. They knew how to communicate, and how to, what I needed to know before the shot. And I think that was of enormous help. I learned it later on when I did a couple of student film, like you would do 20 minutes of a script so they could raise more money. Like even John Mahoney and I did one for a young director. And the thing that I noticed is he didn't have the language. He didn't have the communication skills to be able to talk to an actor. He had visuals, but he didn't have the right language in which to talk to an actor. And I suggested that he go to an acting class. And I think now most of the film schools are already aware of that. And the directors are now, I think, asked to, have, I just think it's really important that if you want to direct or act or write, you should try one at least once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, to do it, because you'll gain a level of respect for that discipline that you never would have if you didn't. So I think it's really important.
Your acting background then must help you immeasurably when you're directing, just in terms of working with actors.
Yeah. And I think I'll tell you the other thing too is I've always been interested in architecture and art. So I love museums, and I love going to different cities. And the very first thing I generally do is take in the architecture. And consequently, I think because of that, because of my interest, I remember Dustin Hoffman said years ago that it was so important as an actor to be interested in music and art and, the arts in general. And I think that gives you a better eye. So framing pictures, if you will, as to where to put people on the stage kind of comes from studying our art.
What do you look for when you're approaching a project to direct? Like, what do you look for in the script? I mean, how do scripts appeal to you?
Well, the first thing is, does the story grab me? And am I grabbed right away? Am I interested? Then the second thing is, am I interested at the same time and in the characters? And then the next thing I look at is, do the characters speak differently? Do they have is their dialogue of themselves and not the same voice
Right.
as other characters. And you look for twists and turns. And then I look for challenges. I do that even in acting. It's one of the things that I love about the theater. For example, I did this play last year at the Irish Rep because it was a really big challenge. It was, 6 monologues with 2 other actresses who had 6 monologues each. And it was about a North Dublin family and generations. And so I had to have a North Dublin accent. And I had to memorize all that material, and it had to be funny and smart and emotional. And so I set myself up for it, but I seem to need those kinds of challenges in order to be interested.
We got a comment from someone in Sri Lanka who wanted to tell you how much they love your role in Grace and Frankie.
Oh, how nice. Sri Lanka. Oh my God.
I know.
I hope it's okay over there.
So do I. Tell me about your role on Grace and Frankie for the people watching at home that don't.
Grace and Frankie, well, I play a dear friend of Jane Fonda's character, who she is struggling with early Alzheimer's. And over the seasons, now I think this is about my 4th or 5th time on the show.
I've been doing it since 2016, I think.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's very funny, and sometimes it's quite moving. The difficulty that a person has who is struggling with dementia or Alzheimer's.
Do you think in terms of do you have a bucket list of things that you want to direct or roles that you want to play, or do you not think in those terms?
Oh, I had such a long list of roles I wanted to play, and I never got to play them. Now I'm too old for them, for the most part. But I try keeping interested to have a bucket list. And as for directing, no, see, that's kind of wide open. So almost anything and everything intrigues me, and I feel sort of up for it. And I have a project that I've been working on for a couple of years now. There was a film in Australia that a friend of mine wrote, Tony Fingleton, called Swimming Upstream. And it was a film with Judy Davis and Jeffrey Rush. And he sent me some material to work on another project. And we got to have a real dialogue as a playwright and director. And so one of the producers of the film said, you really ought to try and make this play. So we've been working on it. And then we realized, of course, it's all about a young man in a dysfunctional family who is swimming competitively for Australian Olympics in the 50s. And how would we do that on the stage? Well, we sort of thought outside the box, and I went to Montreal and I worked with some acrobats in a workshop for a couple of weeks to see if we could create swimming without water.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I know. So I think we've done it. So now we are interested in hoping to do a final workshop where we integrate the material, the play, with the acrobats. But I think I have it. I think I have it good. So I'm just waiting to see if the universe will support it and we get a chance to do it.
That must be so exciting for you as an artist to just figure out new ways of doing things.
It is so exciting. I cannot tell you. It gives me goosebumps. I get so excited.
I can tell. You could see it in your face. You lit up talking about it.
Yeah, I love it because it's pure creativity and working with talented people and trying to solve a problem that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, and really pushing yourself to think outside the box. And of course, now we have to think really hard about outside the box. So,
because there's going to be no money left when theater comes back, so we're going to have to be doing.
and
Yeah.
the spacing.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I have in this particular project, I can do it almost anywhere. So it can be in an open air, it can be in a tiny small box, it can be almost anywhere. So I'm excited.
I will leave you with the question, and I love asking. I love asking this question, and no one ever really has an answer because it's always so hard to choose. But do you have a favorite role that you've done?
Well, gosh, that is hard.
Yeah, and it's always because it's always it's the choice of like picking your favorite child. I would.
Right. But I think I loved Maggie and Cinderella Liberty, and I really, really loved the character and my performance in Only When I Laugh. I think those two are my personal favorites. But I loved all of them. I found, because they were all kind of very good challenges in so many different ways. I mean, even though Neil wrote the majority of the films, those characters were really quite different.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. I had a good time. I had a really good time.
Marsha, thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, thank you, David. Stay safe now.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.